What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Harry Haynes. It's the last installment of Why White People Feel Guilty. Because they're lying to you. And most of them know it, but it takes these people from their circles to come forward and to tell you exactly what it is. And then when we hear it, we don't echo the same sentiments. We sit back and we say, oh, well, hey, that's just some good information. No. This should compel you. This should make you upset to let you know. Remember what I talked before. As long as you adopt their worldview, their science, then all of a sudden there is no way that you will find yourself truly liberated. Because even if you move on, you will find yourself doing the same thing that they did, which would inevitably be holding your people back. It was something interesting that me and my sister got into an argument about. And then, I was hitting her 9 ways from Sunday. She didn't know what. So she got frustrated. She got upset. But I can no longer continue to let her insult my intelligence. See, a lot of times when you remain silent, people think you don't know anything. I just do it because, like I said, I cherish the relationship with my family. And in these times, who don't want to know how your sister, your brothers, and your nephews and nieces are doing? So I remain or refrain from being confrontational. I don't want to get into a debate all the time with the people that I love because you don't know when's the last time you're going to see and hear from them. Anybody out in the street, I care less. We can get into a debate, chop your head off, and I'll move on. But when she talked about it, she was like, oh, well, what you're doing, you're not doing things for Jehovah. And it's about with the information that you're given, it should be spiritual in nature. I said, it is spiritual in nature. She said, well, most of the time I hear you talking about food, proper diets and all of that different stuff. She was like, that's not spiritual. I said, that's where you're wrong. I said, what did Jesus do when he went in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights? He fasted, did he not? Isn't fasting a spiritual exercise? Your relationship with food is a spiritual exercise. Okay, and that brings me to what? I got a surprise. I've been telling people about the book club. Now, I told you about my book. One way you can support me is when I put my book together. Got the finishing touches, not put it together, but complete it. But I got the finishing touches on it. It's gonna be a phenomenal book. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to get my book club started too as well. Get you guys ordering these fantastic books because, like what I say, see, I'm hitting them in the head. Even what we got, what the doctor presented. PhD, MD, Dr. Wilner, still we dealing with surface level information because if you talk to Haywood Haynes, he'll tell you what's really causing illness in people. Okay? And this is, so we're going to talk about 3 books that I'm going to reference that I use as references in my book, and they're going to blow your mind. I've been instituting this philosophy since I, turned 40 this year. And since my birthday, this is what I've been doing. This is the first phenomenal book. The Rise of Yeast. Can you see that? The Rise of Yeast. I need you guys to get that book. It's by Nicholas P. Money. Now, we already see the symbolism, okay? We see the 3 piles of yeast put in the form of a pyramid. What do I say? Pause. Every time I would mention somebody, like I would do lectures, I would mention Dane Calloway, I would mention Ray Hagan, everybody, they'd nitpick at me. Well, you believe this dude? I don't believe in I believe in energy. If you give me some energy that I can use, that's what I take. I don't follow anybody. I follow the energy. Okay, so even when I have books, you got to be careful because they'll slip in those, those falsehoods, and then obviously it'll send your brain running. But if you know and you have an analytical mind, you rarely will get caught up in those snares and pitfalls. I'm gonna read you some excerpts from this book because first, what I have to tell you, I don't know if you know some of these things. Some people do, but I can't, like I said, expect for you to know these things, right? So now I'm unpaused, right? So what I want you to know is what? Yeast lives in you. You have to survive with it. It colonizes your body. Yeast is your dandruff. Do you know when you have too much dandruff? That's yeast. Do you know yeast lives under your underarms? That's what accounts for the smell. Yeast lives in your private areas. That's what accounts for women having vaginal infections. It also is what accounts for men having infections. Okay? It colonizes the body. It colonizes the mouth. It lives in the mouth. Okay, if you open up your mouth and you see those white streaks on the inside of your cheeks, that's yeast living in there, waiting for sugar. Now, what's important is that people have to understand, especially black people in particular, is that yeast wants carbon, carbohydrates, sugar. That's why it feeds off sugar, but it ultimately wants your carbon. What did we say melanin was made out of? 18 atoms of the 34 atom molecule of melanin is made out of carbon. Yeast, this organism don't care if you're dead. It wants to consume your whole body. Okay, it will detach retinas. It will cause brain fog. They already have said that recent studies have seen a strong correlation between yeast overconsumption of yeast and neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, etc. They know it's yeast. Listen, let me read. I'll read the inside. By any measure, it is a truly remarkable fungus. Added to rotting grapes, it produces alcohol, creating wine. Added to dough, it leavens bread, making it easy to eat and digest. Its capacity to multiply is biblical in proportions. Left unchecked, a founding population of 100 cells could grow to 430 billion in 2 days, and would match the mass of the moon by the end of a week. It is the microbe of choice for those studying heredity. And it is indeed so critical to current scientific inquiry that were it not naturally occurring, mankind would have had to try and invent it. Welcome to the world of yeast, Saccharomyces, the sugar fungus. Okay? This is a fungus that has taken over your body. If you take a look at the hair, you have the cortex, you have the medulla and the cuticle. So you have the cuticle on the outside, then you have the cortex in the middle. Inside the cortex, you have what's called the medulla. It's rich in sugar. This is what it does. This is why people, we have lost our hair on the top or the crown of the head, is because the yeast loves to live in that environment. It sweats, it's warm, it's moist, and the hair has sugar. This is one of the reasons why if you have a pimple, you'll see that most of the time that bacteria or that yeast will live in that area next to the hair, because it will soak it. The hair, is the fastest growing cells on the human body. It will get those nutrients, or it get that sugar. You see what I'm saying? So this is what we have to understand has been going on all along. Yeast loves to feed on alcohol. Alcohol, brothers and sisters. Okay, so yeast will feed on alcohol. So when you drink alcohol, this is why it's called a sickness. Because you feed the yeast. And what happens is when you drink too much alcohol, every yeast strain has a different tolerance for alcohol. So this is why most people have what's called a Candida albicans overgrowth or candidiasis. All right, that's why they always tell you about getting the Candida cleanse. All right, because what happens is Candida can tolerate a lot of alcohol. Other yeast and bacteria can't. That's why you kill it. That's why you got these drinks like kombucha and all this different stuff to replenish the good yeast and bacteria. Because Candida will take over. It will even secrete extra alcohol to destroy the yeast around it. It will colonize you. It ties into your thoughts. It can secrete hormones like gremlin and all of this different stuff to let you know. This is why you can spoil your appetite with sugar. Have you ever ate some sugar and then all of a sudden you didn't want to eat the meat or eat all your vegetables? Why? Because the yeast said, I'm through. I got the sugar I wanted. You can sit your ass down. See, this is why they took your teachings away from you. We taught unleavened. We talked about leavened bread. Okay, when you listen, unleavened bread is made with yeast. All right, and so that's what's toxic. You look at bread; it contains sugar. You can't even taste the sugar in bread. Why? Because that sugar is there for the yeast. Okay, that sugar is there for the yeast. The yeast will eat that sugar and use it to fuel itself, and it will spew out alcohol. There is a condition called alcohol's Brewer syndrome, right? Where yeast in your body, if you have an overgrowth of yeast, the yeast will spit out so much alcohol that people who have this syndrome, they will not pass or fail. They will fail a breathalyzer test. Do you hear what I'm saying? And then yeast can feed off alcohol. It secretes alcohol. You're dealing with an organism that can survive off its own waste. You're dealing with an organism that can survive in your chest. It's wet and moist. Where do you think your allergies and your asthma and all of that stuff comes from? Because yeast breathes in and it breathes out CO2. That's what you do. And it secretes water and alcohol. You're the perfect host. Why do you think they made gods like Dionysus and gods for alcohol? You know, these brewers, you know, this is what's called a bud. You ever know what Bud Light meant or Budweiser beer? Is because on top of the yeast, they have these buds. The only difference between the so-called quote unquote, you got to use these terms loosely like female and male, because both female and male supposedly, this is what because the reason why they associated with the female is because the female gives birth. The male doesn't, but the male organism still holds the buds on top of its surface. And what happens is when they come into contact with each other through smell, right? They mate with each other and they then the end result are buds. The buds is what actually then become more yeast, but only the female does that. Only the female, quote unquote, gives birth. All right. And so that's important for your understanding, because then what you realize is that the power that this organism has over you, and that the terms that they've used, it's all been hidden in plain sight. The alcohol that they have you consume, that they were vehemently against, especially in the early 20th century when they put a ban on it, and then they had religious ties to it because they knew what was going on. The occult science, they were fully aware that they were poisoning the people on a level that you were fully not aware of. All right, that's what you have to understand. They were feeding the organ. Now, mind you, like, what did I say? You walking around calling it yeast, just like you walk around calling it baking soda. Nomenclature is important. Remember the compartmentalization of information. You sit up there and you call it one thing, but in their laboratories, they're calling it something totally different. It has a long Latin name because it's serious, bro. This ain't nothing. You call it sodium, you call it baking soda. In their hospitals, they call it sodium bicarbonate. And why would they flush a person with sodium bicarbonate or baking soda to get them stable? Is because sodium bicarbonate or baking soda kills fungus. Coconut oil kills fungus. This is why most people have success growing their hair back with coconut oil. See, we got to stop being magical and mystical about the things that we use and don't know why they work. See, this is one of the reasons why when you take a tablespoon or so of coconut oil, I put drops of lavender in there, and your body feels amazing. You're turning those levels down, those yeast levels down, okay, that feed on your skin. Mind you, the yeast feeds on the outside of the skin and in the inside of the body. It totally consumes you. People wonder why my thoughts are so clear. How I can speak the way that I speak, think the way that I think, retain the information that I retain. I got my yeast levels down. I couldn't have done with it. You think I hadn't had brain fog before? I've been at a loss for words, verbal utterances, etc., etc. How I've been able to master that is making sure that I am the one that is colonizing my brain, not another organism. All right? Sometimes they can't even tell the difference between a yeast infection and herpes and warts. And this is how, look, man. You don't know. I'm telling you, they already knew. Like, what did he say? Essential for studying heredity. We know that they have never even isolated the DNA molecule. So you see, even when Dr. Wilner is divulging things to you, he's still not telling you the hidden science. They're telling you that their high-powered electron microscopes are too powerful because you can only see through the body through X-ray. You have to understand that. So they don't have a machine that will be able to allow them to subtly see through the human body. You need X-ray vision to do that. Ain't that what Superman had to see through the body? It's called X-ray vision. So that's a strong electromagnetic current that is being pushed through the body. So what it does is it jumbles up the so-called double helix. And they've never seen the double helix. Remember we talked about Francis Crick and James Watson and how they had got the photo from Rosalind Franklin from King's College in 1953, and it was entitled the UFO photo. They have never seen to this day what the DNA molecule looks like. Yet they have disciplines that are based on it. What does that tell you? You running around here practicing the worst form of voodoo. You act like they know it all. All their science is based on theory for a reason. Why? Not because they don't know. Stop acting like Europeans are, oh, we're evolving. Oh, they don't know. Science is at odds. Our experts are dumbfounded. They're confounded. Oh my God, the situation is too convoluted. Who are you dealing with? They already know. This is my point where I'm telling you, Europeans who are in the sciences already know that they're lying to you. And soon as their kind finds out, what do? They write books about it. They mount a defense. They grab guns. They feel like it's the end of the world. They know that this empire, this new phase of the Greco-Roman Empire is toxic. They know it. They know it. Like we talked about, Flint is not symbolic of how they treat just black people. Flint is symbolic in the poison water is symbolic of how they treat all of you. You didn't watch the movie Dark Waters that came out last year in 2019? How the DuPont Corporation was contaminating the water, and this is in affluent neighborhoods. You see, there's a town in Texas called Leukemia High. A high school called Leukemia High in a certain town where they had these power lines. Look, there's a book called The Toxic Assault on Our Children. Pick it up if you can. Excellent book. You think, this is what I'm saying. What justice are you marching for when they control the air, the land, and the water? They control the radio waves. I couldn't even, like I said before, if we wanted to communicate via radio, they control the radio waves. They control it all. What are you dealing with? What are you talking? You want more of a system that is intended by its design, inherent in its design to subjugate you? You want to be a part of that? You don't know what you involving yourself in. You know, when this yeast, it's in, like we said, 70 to, it's called your second brain. 95%, I believe 90 to 95% of your serotonin is made in your gut. That's a neurotransmitter. Okay? This ties into your sexuality, everything. This yeast colonizes your whole body. It ties into your hormones. You don't think that it's having sex while you're having sex? You don't think it enjoys every feeling, every emotion? See, it can make you angry. Think about when people don't get their alcohol. That's what the yeast survives off of. They get angry. When somebody doesn't have something, even when we're talking about weed, all that different stuff, it ties into all that. You have what's called an endocannabinoid system, endogenous cannabinoid system, okay? Where that is, you create cannabinoids on your own, even without smoking weed. So the yeast will tie into that system because what happens when you smoke weed? Oh, the yeast love it. You get the munchies, specifically for sugar. And what do you see? The yeast is salivating. It's all around your lips. That white stuff, that's yeast. Did you know that? They're salivating. They know the first place the food got to go is the mouth. That's why as soon as you taste it, you like, That ain't you just saying, That's also them saying, I know, it's disgusting, ain't it? I know you didn't want that picture, but you need that picture. You need to understand what you're dealing with. They knew since the days of Egypt what this yeast would do. That's why they took the information that was given for us to understand what would affect our bodies and why we had to keep it under control, why we had to drink in moderation. It wasn't just because, it was a thing you get drunk and you want to do this and you want to do that. Notice how you change when you drink. Notice how you become someone else. Man, stop it. I'm doing too much. I'm killing you niggas, first off, is what I'm doing. And you're going to have to admit, nobody that you know is bringing it like how I bring it. Stop playing with me. This is just one of the books I reference in my book. You know, look, I don't get cocky too many times, but you know how amazing that book gonna be? You see, I feel changes in myself every day. I'm just not talking the talk. I'm here to walk the walk. Y'all see me. Y'all see what I do. This is why I'm telling y'all to get this information out here, because I can go on extensively about these things and elaborate a lot more. But, I'm saving some juice because, look, I want y'all to continue to do some research yourself and see how this has been, how they've gotten away with it. And this has been every illness known. That's why they say e pluribus unum, out of many, one. They created many out of one thing. That's what they do. Out of one thing, out of this uncontrollable yeast. This is what even plants are affected by it. Like, remember I told you when I showed you the plants. If root rot is when a fungus takes over the roots of the plant and the plant can die. It's almost a point of no return when you have root rot, when that fungus takes over. But also in a certain amounts, when you have beneficial microorganisms, they are the ones that break down the sugar for the plant so that the sugars are absorbable. Okay? That's what feeders or growers call indirect feeding, when you feed the soil, not direct feeding when you just take nutrients and trying to get your plant bigger. Okay? So this is what we have to understand, these things, man. Like they have confused us. We're bought into their worldview. We have accepted it, which is, caused us even more confusion. And this is one of the reasons why I tell you that you have to pay attention. Remember, we talked about how they were able to successfully take countries out of lands and then give them a new construct. Call it the Middle East. Call it Southeast Asia. You see, when it was all ruled by Africa or Africans. That's what you have to understand. And when we don't do that, when we don't want to dig deeply, this is what we have: chaos. You have chaos. Or you have me get into an argument with my sister because she wants me to believe that the information that I'm presenting to you guys has no value. You see, that's what we've allowed them to do. They become the gatekeepers. This is an illustration that I like, or a way I like to convey, because I believe sports, when you look at that, because we're so intimately involved with their rituals, we must use them as examples in order to figure out, to garner clarity. You see, and then so when I talk about the offensive line, let's say quarterback is, and I don't believe in white supremacy. I believe in black ignorance. And because we're ignorant, this is what gives other people power. When you don't know how to do something, that's what gives somebody else power. If I don't know how to fix my sink, that's what gives a plumber power to come in here and charge me whatever the heck he wants to charge me, or she charge me whatever the heck she wants to charge me. So when we are guarding the lie is the quarterback, but our people are the offensive line. We're trying to get through 300-400 pound OTs before we could even get to the lie. They're protecting it with their life. You should have heard my sister on the phone last night. Mad. I'm still in a religion you gave up on. As if there was no intellectual progression. Please. I'll never go back. You'll never see me walking backwards. I don't moonwalk for nobody. I don't care how good Michael Jackson made it look. So this is what we're saying, brothers and sisters. We are consuming a lot. Honey buns. Honey buns ain't nothing but yeast with sugar around it. Start looking at your food as an organism that you're putting into your body. It's already alive before you eat it. See, the only time you look at your food being alive or used to be alive is when you eat meat or consume meat. You don't look at your bread like that. You don't look at your snacks like that. Everything made with bread, everything made with flour has yeast in it. And we've consumed it. You can't even eat a sandwich without bread. Okay? And you have that yeast tagging along, colonizing the body, having an affinity, special affinity for black people in particular, because it wants carbon. Not just carbohydrates, that's a form of carbon. Come on now. When oxygen hits that carbohydrate, what happens? You release water and sugar. I mean, you create sugar you release, when oxygen hits it, you create carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide and water. Forgive me. Sometimes I get it jumbled a little bit because I be speaking so fast. But you create this carbon dioxide in water after oxygen hits carbohydrates. Okay? So you're the perfect vehicle for this yeast. And that's what you have to understand. This is what's so deep. So when people talk about, oh man, the 5G and all, you'll be consumed by the yeast before all that happens. Did you hear what my man said? Multiplies in biblical proportions. A population of 100 cells could grow to 430 billion in 2 days. What did Cat Williams say? I said billion, nigga. You should be able to kill a nigga with a billion. And this is where I'm saying, if I can't help my people stay alive, then my job is incomplete. I feel like I'm y'all avatar. And if you ever see, what did I say before about that? This is so special. I don't know. I love the movies. I love the Avatar cartoons. I love the movie. Even the Avatar cartoons, the series on Netflix, they have a lot of similarities with the movie Avatar. They have this special tree that connect to the roots of spirituality, the spiritual world, etc., blah, blah, blah. But what's important about the Avatar, like you see the Avatar core, if you get an opportunity to check that out, some real deep stuff. They say that it's intended for your children, but this is where they're telling you the truth. Remember when I talked about how there were certain things that were left for great civilizations and we wonder what the people were like? And then I told you that the way that you understand who you are or what you are, who you are is by understanding what you are. You're accepting this idea of being a human. That's what you're accepting. And see, in the cartoon, what do? They have to show you in the cartoon. So if I just sit up here and talk about it randomly, like, man, this dude sound crazy. But they put it to you in your cartoon, you can see it. They put it to you in the movie and you can see it. So you look at the Avatar, what was the Avatar? Remember, you go back to the pentagram. Okay, fire, air, earth, and water. All right, those are the 4 elements, and the 5th being spirit. Okay, the Avatar is different from it's still people who can airbend. They can airbend. You got airbenders, earthbenders. Okay, you got firebenders. You got water benders. These are all different civilizations. But the Avatar is the only one who could bend all 4. That's why he's called or she's called the Avatar. Okay? So the earthbenders, they can move earth. This is how you made the pyramids. See, they showing you in the cartoons that the people were the weapons. When you watch the cartoons, they got uniformed officers. They ain't got no guns or batons. They bend in fire. They bend in water. Those are the police officers. The ones for law and order. And they mastered those techniques. That's why when the people died, the technology died with them, because the people were the technology. Stop playing with me. I'm killing. See, you have not ran into nobody like me. Accept it. Talking about how I'm trying to down people, and people come on my channel when like I said, I hate to bring it up, but I got to, because I got my chip on my shoulder and I'm feeling some type of way. Pause. Why should I be feeling some type of way? I'm not. Unpause. What I'm saying to you is that when you sit up here and criticize me because I've taken some heroes that supposedly that's been elevated and told you that you need to revere this individual, and then I'm showing you why that shouldn't happen. Look, even when I was talking about those countries, people was like, oh, Africa, and these people we would go back to Africa. Listen, in 1980, one small fact, in 1980, you got a guy by the name of Samuel Doe who did a coup d'etat in Liberia. And who did he remove? He removed the Masons. They were called the Americano-Liberians. They were a special class of Negroes who they sent. Remember, like we talked about how the British also sent their freed slaves to Sierra Leone to start and establish that there so that they could spread Christianity, indoctrinate the African. And now you see these enormous Christian populations in Africa. All right, enormous Muslim populations in Africa, regurgitating to you or repackaging what you had already believed. We talked about the Serer people, Serer in Senegal. Okay, and how they had already esteemed the 5-point star as a symbol of the universe in the creation process. Okay, nothing is new under the sun. All right, and I tell you, this is what I'm gonna end it on. You've seen who is the highest ranking Mason. See, they've told you who the highest ranking Mason is. Everybody's like, who's got the most power? Who's the highest ranking Mason? The highest ranking Mason is the sun. It's called the Grand Luminary. And you just so happen to be a vehicle for the Grand Luminary. Why do you think they want you dead? Why do you think they want to hurry up and accelerate this scheme so that they can close things down before somebody wakes themselves up? Okay? See, you have to understand that these things are possible because animals and insects are doing it, and you have dominion over them. We have the biggest impact on life in and of itself. I don't care how intelligent they say a dolphin is or a whale is. If a man puts a bomb on this earth, detonates a hydrogen bomb, on every city or in every country on this planet, every organism, every living organism will perish, regardless of how intelligent they are. So this is where I'm telling you how we know we have talent and potential inside us that has not been maximized, that has not been used. And this is why they will continue to lie to you. This is why they will continue to, create superficial arguments and talk about, oh, yeah, we need to help black people. White silence is black death. All of this different stuff. No, we don't need you. We don't. And see, now, like I told you, the process that we should have entertained with is too late. It's too late now. Those judges, lawyers, doctors, county prosecutors, these were all positions that we were supposed to take, and we did have them in our community to an extent. But like I said, if that was any solution, that was it, and we've passed that. So now you got to go into your bag of tricks. All right, and so I'm gonna end it on that. We can go off into some other things, but I'm gonna have a live in a minute, so I'm gonna go live. But I'm going to try to build this up so that we can get this information out there and we can have a ton of questions. People ask questions and we go deep off into detail. That was the first book that I wanted to obviously recommend to you guys to get so we can discuss it. When enough people read it, let me know. Send me a message that you've ordered it and you've read it. Once you've read it and you got any questions, we discuss it. Tell you, this is life-changing information. I don't do nothing on the surface. You know that. This is something that you can readily use. Now, if you don't use it or you don't put down all those things that, will cause your body to break down, then it's nothing that I can do. But I'm telling you, when you start to think about it, what all that junk food that you was putting in your body was not feeding you. Okay? was not feeding you. And we'll go into deeper detail about some other things because, like I said, I always got some more extra stuff I can hit you with. But this is your boy, Heru Heinous, and let's get it. I'm gone.